My name is Emily, and tonight I want to tell you about a night I'll never forget. A night that wasn't just another date or another sleepover. It was a memory that carved itself deep into my heart, a memory I still hold onto when the world feels too quiet. Daniel and I had been together for 3 years. We met at a friend's art show downtown. I was standing alone, admiring a painting, when he came up and started talking about the colors. His confidence felt like a warm breeze, and before I knew it, we were laughing like we'd known each other forever. From that first night, Daniel had a way of making me feel alive in ways I didn't know I needed. He was adventurous and impulsive, the kind of man who would pull me out of bed at midnight just to dance in the kitchen. But life isn't always as simple as love. A few weeks before that night, Daniel told me he had accepted a job in Seattle, his dream job, something he had been working toward for years. We avoided talking about it. Whenever it came up, we'd quickly change the subject or distract ourselves with another glass of wine or another movie. We knew what was coming, but we didn't want to face it. That evening, Daniel came over with a bottle of my favorite red wine. I still remember the way he looked when I opened the door. His dark hair slightly messy, his blue eyes bright but a little sad, as if he had already started saying goodbye. I wore a silky green dress, the one he always said made me look like a forest fairy. We sat on the couch, close enough that I could feel the warmth of his leg against mine. The candles flickered around us, casting soft shadows on the walls. We talked about our favorite trips, the late-night drives, the spontaneous beach days, the rainy Sundays we spent wrapped up in each other. Every sip of wine made my heart feel heavier. I laughed at his stories, but inside I felt like I was slowly breaking apart. At one point, he reached over and tucked a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers brushed my cheek, and my breath caught. I turned toward him, and before I could say anything, he kissed me. It started as a gentle kiss, almost hesitant, as if he was asking for permission to go further. But when I kissed him back, something shifted. His hand slid into my hair, pulling me closer, and I felt the world disappear around us. My arms wrapped around his neck, and I pressed my body against his, feeling his heartbeat against my chest. We stood up together, our lips still locked, and stumbled toward the bedroom. I could feel his hands sliding down my back, his lips moving to my neck, making me shiver with every soft touch. He whispered my name so softly it felt like a prayer. When we fell onto the bed, the moonlight spilled across the sheets, painting our bodies in silver. His hands explored my skin with a tenderness that made my heart ache. Every kiss, every touch felt desperate and sweet, as if we were trying to memorize each other. His breath was warm on my shoulder, and I felt like I could melt into him forever. I pulled him closer, feeling the warmth of his body against mine, the slow, sweet rhythm of our breaths merging. We moved together as if we had done this 1,000 times before, but knew it would never feel like this again. There was something so raw and real in that moment, something that felt both heartbreaking and beautiful. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets, his arm draped over my waist, my head resting on his chest. I could hear his heartbeat, steady and soothing. He ran his fingers up and down my arm, and I traced soft patterns on his stomach. We didn't speak at first. There was nothing to say that could capture the swirl of emotions inside us. Eventually, in the dark, he whispered, "I don't want to go." His voice cracked just enough that I felt tears sting my eyes. I lifted my head and looked at him, touching his face lightly. "Then stay," I whispered, knowing even as I said it that he wouldn't. He kissed me again, slow and deep, like he was trying to answer me without words. That kiss felt like 1,000 confessions, 1,000 goodbyes. When he finally pulled back, I saw the tears glistening in his eyes. We talked softly after that. He told me about his hopes for Seattle, about how scared he was to start over but also excited. I told him I was proud of him, even if it broke my heart. We promised to call, to visit, to make it work somehow. Deep down, we both knew we were trying to protect ourselves from the pain that was coming. When we drifted to sleep, I held him as tightly as I could, breathing in his scent, memorizing the weight of his arms around me. I woke up a few hours later and watched him sleep, the way his eyelashes fluttered, the way his lips parted slightly. I wanted to freeze time right there, to keep him next to me forever. But the morning came, as it always does. We got dressed quietly, moving slowly, like we were trying to delay the inevitable. He stood by the door for a moment, looking at me as if he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I stepped forward and kissed him one last time, feeling the salt of my tears on our lips. When he left, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the door. The room felt empty, like all the warmth had been sucked out. I hugged a pillow to my chest and cried until I couldn't anymore. The days after felt like a dream I couldn't wake up from. I kept expecting him to call, to walk through the door with that smile that always made everything okay. We texted for a while, called each other late at night, but slowly, those calls became less frequent. Life started pulling us in different directions, and eventually, we stopped trying. I focused on my art again, poured my heart into painting and teaching. I started going out with friends more, trying to fill the empty spaces he had left behind. But some nights, I'd pour myself a glass of red wine and put on that green dress. I'd stand by the window, looking at the moon, and remember the way he looked at me that night. Years later, we saw each other again at a friend's wedding. He looked older, his hair a little shorter, a small line by his eyes that hadn't been there before. When our eyes met, it felt like time folded in on itself. We hugged, and for a moment, all the old feelings came rushing back. We danced once, and I rested my head on his shoulder. It felt familiar and foreign at the same time. We talked about our lives, our work, the people we had become. There was no anger, no sadness, just gratitude. We had loved each other deeply once, and even though it hadn't lasted, it had shaped us. At the end of the night, we hugged again, and this time it felt like a real goodbye. A quiet, gentle closure. As he walked away, I realized that love doesn't always have to last forever to be meaningful. Sometimes, a love that burns bright and ends too soon can teach us the most about ourselves. Now, when I think back to that night, I don't feel the sharp sting of loss anymore. Instead, I feel warmth, a soft ache that reminds me of how deeply I can love. That last night with Daniel wasn't just a goodbye, it was a celebration of everything we were, everything we had shared. Sometimes, I still wear that green dress. I pour a glass of wine, put on some music, and dance alone in my living room, imagining his hands on my waist, his laughter echoing in my ears. I smile because even though he's gone, that night is still alive inside me. That's the thing about love. It doesn't always stay in the way we want it to. But when it's real, it leaves a mark that time can't erase. One last night with my boyfriend after wine, a passion we couldn't resist. And even though it was the end, it was also the most beautiful beginning of understanding who I really am.